In a statement released by his publicist, Cassandra Williams, Paul Mooney is denying claims that he had sex with Richard Pryor's son when he was underage. Child, let's talk about it. Yo, what's up? I'm Jaded Nerd, and I wanted to talk to y'all about this situation involving Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor Jr. Richard Pryor Sr. passed away in 2005. Reports came out after an interview that Rashon Khan, a former bodyguard of Richard Pryor, he did an interview online to something called Comedy Hype. And they interviewed him, and there was some interesting things that he had to say about Paul Mooney and Richard Pryor Jr. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play a portion of the interview so y'all can check out what he had to say, and then I'll come back and I'll give y'all the rest of my commentary.
The relationship became fragile.
Okay.
Because Paul Mooney had Richard's son by that time.
So Richard passed away in 2005. Where was his and Paul's relationship at that time?
Well, from JoJo Dancer on, the relationship became fragile. He violated. And that's any man, if you violate their children like that. Mm-hmm. So Paul took advantage of the situation. Mm-hmm. And so from there on, whatever Paul Mooney was to Richard, and there was a time that Paul Mooney was Richard's friend. You know, I acknowledge that. Which is why the gay community really couldn't say anything they attempted to about Richard, because Paul Mooney was his friend. Mm-hmm. And they laughed. So when Paul did what he did, it was a violation of friendship first, and then my son, you know.
Right.
And in some circles, that's supposed to be dealt with.
Was there ever a conversation to retaliate against that?
Yes, yeah, of course.
How, to what extent?
To the extent of Richard didn't want him on the planet no more. He shared it with me, and he said he wanted somebody killed. Mm-hmm. And Richard, that wasn't his conversation, so I just attribute that he must be high right now. Mm-hmm. And it's Friday. This is the high day, so it's Friday, Saturday, mm-hmm. Sundays. By Wednesday he'll be straight, because I knew the pattern. And I asked him again, because Richard never spoke like that. Mm-hmm. And I just said, do you remember what you said to me last week? And he was on it so clear. It was like, okay, it's serious. And so then I asked him, what is it about? He said, $1 million. I want somebody killed. And I was like, damn, I'm not a killer. I'm not that person. But I did give it thought. I know some people, some damn where.
Okay.
And the biggest problem with those people would have been you saying $1 million to them, because they would have did it for like 10 grand.
Right.
And so I asked him, what was it about?
And this is your first time hearing about the incident?
This was the first, when he told me the first time, I thought he was high. I just made that high conversation. But because he was so adamant about it, I asked him again that Wednesday. And then he went into detail. And that's when he told me what went on. And he told me who did it. Mm-hmm. And he was hurt by it.
Yeah.
He was hurt because it happened to his son. And he was really hurt, which I don't think Paul Mooney understood, because someone that I took as a friend did that to me.
Right. Wow. Okay. And his son was like young at the time?
Yeah, Richard Jr. Yeah, Richard was a little boy.
Rewinding us discussing that Pryor asked or requested, was looking for someone to pretty much put a hit on Paul for $1 million. It didn't, and years later, it did not happen. Was there a reason why?
It didn't happen because Richard caught on fire. Richard burned. And that's what saved Paul Mooney's life today, present day, is because Richard caught on fire. Mm-hmm. And then that became the primary. Before that, it was Paul Mooney. Mm-hmm. You did this to my son. It was betrayal, my son. And then you pretended like it didn't happen. So had Richard not caught on fire, Paul Mooney would not be here. He wouldn't be living.
Did Rich ever, I guess his son came to him, Pryor Jr. came to him about the incident? Or was it caught on like surveillance?
I don't think it was on surveillance. I don't think Paul was that stupid, but somewhere along the way, Richard found out. Yeah. And I remember letting Richard Jr. know, here's how your father thought about it. And Richard cried then because he didn't think his father knew. And I said, your father, this is what he wanted done to Paul Mooney. And Richard looked at me and he said, really? I said, yeah. He told me everything. And I was able to repeat it to Junior. And he cried. He looked at me and he started crying. He said, I didn't know my father. I said, yeah, your father knew. And he was going to do what he thought was the right thing to do. And I did too.
Because that's something that, that's a complete violation.
Well, it's not only a complete violation, but it's something that is prevalent amongst us, that we sweep under the rug and pretend it don't happen, that our uncles are violating our daughters. And, but that goes on amongst us. You cannot turn the slave thing off because we're in 2019.
One of the first things about that clip and that interview that stand out to me is that he sounds believable. I began asking questions when I first heard the story earlier today because I kind of wanted to know what were the motives of the people involved. Was Richard Pryor Jr. looking for clout, looking for money? What is his financial standing? And does he, is it about money? Or does the former bodyguard himself have reason to chase clout? And what could that be? I did some digging and I found out that he does have a book, a tell-all book that he is releasing. So again, this isn't like he's just sounding an alarm or it came up in an arbitrary interview and he happened to mention this. Of course, he's going to be promoting a book. But I don't want that to distract us from the fact that what he said is heinous and the fact that he does come across, at least right now, as someone very credible in terms of body language, the inflection of his voice. There were just certain things that he said and the way that he said it, it just sounded believable. It's sad to hear this situation because this is something that happens to a lot of people in a lot of families and is never really talked about. And people deal with it in a myriad of ways. They seek therapy or they're traumatized and then they pass the cycle on. Within the Black community, African American community, or people of color, this happens far too often and is swept under the rug. Those are the cliches. Is everybody turns a blind eye. There's an auntie, there's an uncle, so that's done touched or did something to someone in the family and everybody knows about it. Nobody talks about it. They've had Thanksgiving dinners. They've seen each other at Easter. Their kids play together. And it's something that we just I can't wrap my mind around that. When I began thinking about the situation and I was thinking, okay, Paul Mooney, and he's a celebrity and legendary in terms of comedy and writing and producing and things like that. And then you're talking about Richard Pryor Sr. And that dynamic adds another element to this story because, again, someone close to the family. I didn't want people to get caught up in the fact that, oh, Paul Mooney, oh, absolutely not. Why not? You get what I'm saying? Let's say that this did happen. If it happened, he's trash. Let's just put that out there right now. And then also I'm wondering is the fact that there's not more outrage because it's a guy, a man, a male, Richard Pryor Jr. Had it been a woman, a girl, a female, would the outrage be more peaked? Would people have more of an interest? You get what I'm saying? Because young boys get molested and taken advantage of a lot as well. So the fact that it's boy or girl or however it breaks down, people are getting abused. It's happening in the family with close friends and relatives. And then it's a cycle of abuse and it happens and it's passed down generationally and it's a big old mess. So these are some of the questions that I had. Was the bodyguard seeking clout? Is the son seeking clout? Why is Paul Mooney denying it if he didn't do it? Like, I'm trying to understand the mindset. It's hard to separate the man or woman from their accomplishments or what it is that you associate with them. And we all love Paul Mooney. He's funny. He's provocative. Okay. Whether you're a younger generation and you found him on the Chappelle Show, or you're old school and you know about him writing for the Richard Pryor Show and having dealings and ties with Sandra Bernhardt and others. He's been around for a long time. So it's very easy for us to be like, yo, I don't want to think about that. I can't see him doing that. But we've seen so many people get caught up. We've seen so many people come out and get exposed. And I think it needs to happen. These conversations need to happen. We got to stop hiding from it. We got to stop acting like, oh, that's not a Black people thing. That's not a people of color thing. That's not a minority thing. It most certainly is. There's a clip of Richard Pryor Jr. actually where TMZ caught him. You know how they do. And this is what he had had to say about the situation. Y'all check this out.
And I wanted to talk to you about the claims from Rashon Khan that you and Paul Mooney had a sexual relationship back in the 80s. Is there any truth to that? I know that Paul Mooney's denied it.
Well, whatever happened in my life, it happened when I was young, way before the 80s.
Okay, so was it a consensual relationship?
How could any relationship be consensual if I was a teenager?
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago. And Paul Mooney's denied the claim. So do you have anything you want to say to him?
Well, I really have nothing to say at all about the situation.
Were you aware of the alleged hate that your father put out on Paul Mooney that Rashon Khan claims?
No, I'm done.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time, Mr. Pryor.
When I saw that, I was like, okay, he's not saying a lot. He's not outwardly denying anything. You don't know if there are legal proceedings. You don't know if he's trying to move on with his life. So the energy and the vibe that he has in that clip is really hard to break that down because we don't have the context. I want to put links to the articles that I read so y'all can check it out. But Richard Pryor's widow, she was actually quoted or on record as saying that there actually is a confession. That there was a confession and that she has it on tape and that it actually happened. I'm going to read these notes real quick for y'all. But she said that she confirmed this at the luncheon that she gave after Richard's funeral service. She put that on Twitter. This story is sad and it's interesting at the same time because, again, it involves a high-profile individual. It involves people that we know, yet it's something that can relate to anyone in any family. This is one of those things that I don't want to play out in the court of public opinion, but unfortunately it will. We don't have a trial. We don't have evidence as yet. And we don't have anything to have as a litmus test in terms of, we don't have anything to measure against. We just basically have he say, we have hearsay, we have things that are being alluded to, and it's basically whose side you choose to be on right now. Before we get on this whole hashtag thing of cancel this or cancel that or cancel him or whatever, I think we owe it to ourselves to look for the information, digest it, and then look for the opportunities so that it doesn't happen, because unfortunately this is happening. This will continue to happen, and it's happening to people in our family we don't even know. What do y'all think about this situation? How do y'all feel about this story? Do you have an opinion right now? Do you think that Paul Mooney may have done something to this young man? And if so, how do you justify that if so? Or do you think that he's innocent? And do you think that in this climate that we have where people are so quick to want to expose and seek justice, perhaps we may be jumping the gun or jumping the broom, or we don't have enough? You get what I mean? Put all those comments and concerns in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what y'all have to say. If you can, please throw a like on the video, subscribe, and share. It's greatly appreciated. I'm Jaded Nerd. I'll talk to y'all next time.